Welcome everybody to another week 2 of the Commanders Film Room, where we break down the all 22 from the following game from the Commanders. Please like, comment, and subscribe so you can keep up with all the great content that we have every single week. You can find us on the Big Doug and Carmi Show on YouTube, but you can also follow us on X. This week, gentlemen, we're going to break down the New York Giants. Gentlemen, it was a tough one, 21-18, a Washington victory. Might not be the most thrilling, exciting game of the weekend of the docket, but the Commanders are now sitting at 1-1 in the top of the NFC East. Who would have predicted that after 2 weeks? So it's pretty interesting. Mark, I'm going to throw it to you. Obviously it was a very interesting game. We walked away with the win, 21-18. There were some positives and there's some areas of growth. Did Sunday's win change your overall perspective or trajectory of the team for this year?
No, I don't think it changed the perspective of it. I think personally, I was going into the season being realistic that, like, yes, there's a lot of positivity around the team going into the season, but it's still a team that earned the second overall pick last year, and it's a team that had, about 30 of their 52 final roster weren't on this roster last year, so they had a ton of turnover. So it was always going to be a long year in terms of wins and losses, but they were going to be more competitive, and that's what you look for. And I think we saw that in this game. They were more competitive. They obviously had some issues both defensively and in the red zone offensively, but there are positives to take out of it. So I think they're kind of on track with where I expected. Maybe even slightly ahead offensively, given they've been quite productive. They just haven't been able to finish drives. But yeah, I don't think it changes the trajectory for where I thought they were going into the year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think going into the year, we kind of thought that the defensive side of the ball may have been better earlier on because, Joe Witt, Dan Quinn kind of have that defensive background. But I was always optimistic of the offense. I felt like Jayden Daniels has a high upside. I felt like there were some offensive weapons there as well. So I think we're kind of seeing what we kind of naturally was going to expect this team so far. So we'll see how it plays out. Throw it over to Nick. We talked about the defense. Week 1, the defense did not look great against Baker Mayfield. Gave up 4 touchdown passes. A lot of communication issues that were going on there. There wasn't 4 touchdowns given up this week, but there was 3 to Daniel Jones. So I'm kind of curious. Was there growth from week 1 to week 2 on the defensive side of the ball, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it was a bit better. Obviously, a defense is going to kind of perform up to, whatever offense they're playing. And the difference between the Giants offense and the Buccaneers offense is pretty large. Mm-hmm. And, just the weapons that the Bucs have compared to the Giants, it's just not going to match. Malik Neighbors had quite the day against Washington. And there are still some problems with communication and whatnot. And, some of the run game stuff that the Giants were doing caused some problems, whenever Washington kind of went to 2 high looks, that the Giants just kind of ran it down their throat and go back to single high looks, and they were good. So just try to figure out your kind of run fits at the 3rd level, and that was kind of a bit of a problem. But I think overall it's a small step in the right direction. I don't want to get too kind of worked up over playing the Giants offense and Daniel Jones, who has made us look very, very bad in the past. So I guess this is kind of a big step up.
That's true. It's kind of sad when we beat Daniel Jones. We're very proud of it. But you know what? Baby steps, week 2, 1-1, moving forward for the rest of the year. So, Nick, speaking of which, your specialty is defense this week. We're going to kind of look at that real quick. We're going to see some growth. And whenever you're ready, just jump on into it.
Yeah, so this first one is kind of – it's not really communication. And I mean, it is and it isn't. But this is when, the Giants got a rather large pass play out of this one because of, the way these guys are lined up and, getting involved in rub routes and pick routes and all that sort of thing. It was just kind of a disaster. So you can see here right at the start, motion kind of is telling Daniel Jones that it's man. He's either checking to a different play, figuring it all out. They've got a play set up where you've got a crosser here. I believe this halfback comes in a crosser, and this guy kind of picks and comes out this way. But again, that pick route should not take up 3 guys here. And when you end up with 3 guys all running into each other, it's just a massive problem. There's better ways to kind of work around this. You've got somebody that needs to go under, somebody needs to go over. You need to either work on passing it off, something like that, and just kind of work on communicating around how you're going to play this. Teams are going to use these routes, use the pick route. Cause problems, especially here, and then you've got wide open guys running across the middle of the field here, and Daniel Jones could have picked either of these 2 guys, and leads to a massive gain on offense. And so that one's a little bit tougher with man coverage, and you kind of have these rub routes that are going to create natural picks, but you don't really ever want to end up in a spot where you have 2 people getting picked by the same person. So that was a big one there, and you can kind of just see it here from this end zone view. Again, you've got Luvu trying to jam the tight end, Wagner trying to get out with the halfback. Again, these are their mans. There's nothing wrong here. This is who they're supposed to get. And then you've got another crosser coming behind it, and it's just a nightmare all over the place, and 2 receivers running wide up and down the field.
Do you mind going back a little bit, Nick? I want to say that one more time, because my initial thought is Frankie Luvu and Bobby Wagner are veterans that kind of know how to kind of pass and shift along a wide receiver coming across. I'm curious why they got caught up there. Was it because of that? Was it, were they pushed back? Was it lack of communication? Do you have any perceptions or any guesses on what happened there?
Yeah, it's just kind of a natural rub route. Like, you're going to get these sort of situations when you play man coverage. Okay. And again, I'm still not 100% on the rules, and maybe in the future they do pass this off and they kind of work that out. But for me, I wouldn't really want Luvu to kind of try to jam him so physically here at the line, and either kind of work to get around over the top, something like that. But again, just kind of naturally happens when you have man coverage and you're playing man coverage, and sometimes you just have a bad call against a good offensive call.
Okay.
And to add on top of that kind of play happened later on in the game. I don't know if you've got that clip as well, Nick. Where
is that the touchdown?
Yeah, no, the neighbors catch and run later on, I think. St. Jude's got beat on basically the same thing. And I think what will end up happening is that Washington will start using a hole player where they drop a linebacker into the hole to help deal with shallow crossers, because the first 2 weeks, whenever they played man coverage, they really struggled with shallow crosses. And you can see here, it's Michael Davis that gets picked. Later on, it was St. Jude's. Last week, it was Forbes. They were all getting picked on these shallow crossers. And when you have a hole player in the middle of the field, they can essentially take over the shallow cross with a good leverage and allow the defender trailing to turn into the hole player and pass it off nicely. But that takes a lot more communication and practice of reps and stuff. And so I'm guessing early on in the season, they're trying to just go man to man to try to keep things as simple as possible, especially after last week where they had so many communication issues.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird front too that they're using. I mean, you wouldn't typically use Dorrance Armstrong as a hole player. You would usually have your 2 linebackers. One of them would be the hole player, and you're rushing 3. And Armstrong he's a hole player, but he's a quarterback spy. He's never going to be worried about anyone in coverage other than the quarterback. So yeah, like Mark said, you can definitely kind of switch that to next week where maybe you get one of these linebackers on the field to play that hole instead of dealing with this problem. Rushing 3 guys with man coverage is not typically my favorite thing in the world, but
Now I was going to ask, when you guys are referencing hole, I think I have my grasp around it, but it's essentially somebody in the middle of the field kind of dropping in a soft zone, correct? It could be QB spy or a soft zone, or what could it be?
You can see where Jeremy Chin is before the snap. He's playing kind of ish as the hole. He'd be a little bit shallower than that, and Nick can circle him there. Yeah, so he'd be typically what the hole player would be. He'd kind of step up probably towards that 35-yard line. And that would be the guy that would pick up those crossers. But Washington seemed determined to play too high a lot of the time in this game, which I'm not really sure why. So instead of playing in the hole, they had both safeties going back deep. And to play man coverage with 2 defenders back deep, you kind of sacrifice the guy in the hole. And And they had Armstrong kind of technically a whole player, but as Nick said, he's more quarterback spying than being a whole player. So he's essentially part of the rush for the sake of the coverage, and that leaves you with no help in the middle of the field against those shallow crosses, which the Giants took advantage of.
Yep. Good news here at the bottom of the screen is, you got a little stack here by the wide receivers, and they didn't really require much communication there, but both guys are on the right man, so step in the right direction there. All right, next play I believe is kind of, a bit of a similar look to what we kind of were looking at last week when we were looking at these cover 3 looks with, that outside player and the deep third player kind of getting confused with who's responsible for who. And you see it here just a little bit. It's a little bit better than what it was last week. But you kind of look here at St. Juice at the top here, and I believe this is Sanderson again. The two of them kind of seem to be the guys here on this. And you've got this kind of outbreaking route, and he turns it upfield, so sort of an out and up here. St. Juice gets caught a little bit looking here at this route, and you can see him kind of just hesitate for a split second. And in the NFL, you're done at that point. Like the second you kind of hesitate right here, you're screwed. That's Darius Slayton running by you. Jones can't get to it because of the pressure. He kind of feels some phantom pressure there, but can't get to it. But again, just a little bit of communication here from the same kind of two guys. Usually this shouldn't be that hard for St. Juice. I'm not sure what he's worried about on that inside guy. He's got to be responsible for that outside breaking route. So even if he is just breaking out, we're still looking for St. Juice to kind of stay over the top of that. And just an out and up that, again, wasn't really capitalized on. And the last one I have here is, again, there's a common theme here. It's these bunch looks. It's these motion looks that teams are putting at Washington. And it was a massive problem last year. It's still a bit of a problem this year. This was a touchdown right at the end of the first half. And at the beginning of the play, you can kind of see them scrambling. Once the Giants kind of come out, they give you this trips look here to the field, motion the running back in. You've got two guys here on 3. Sanders still is looking at St. Juice like, we don't know what's going on here. Trying to get somebody to get over here. Jeremy Chinn's finally over here. Now you got 2 linebackers over here. Or Jeremy Chinn and Bobby Wagner playing out here. He's just kind of responsible for this B gap here. But you've got this bunch look here, and usually how teams will defend this down in the red zone. If you don't switch this down in the red zone, you're screwed. You're just not going to be a successful defense if you're not switching these kind of routes. So usually what teams do is they'll man up this point man, so the wide receiver on the line of scrimmage. You'll get a man coverage here. He's usually going to jam him right here. And then these two will kind of work together. He's going to take anything outside. He's going to take anything inside. And that's typically how you would play it. Some teams have different rules for that. Some offenses stress that with how they release their wide receivers. But that's how you would typically cover a play like this. So as it runs, you've got Sanders still here on the point. He doesn't even get hands on anybody. Chinn's confused. He starts to take Slayton out. St. Juice then also takes Slayton out. And you've got Malik Neighbors, their best wide receiver, completely untouched, wide open for a touchdown. So typically, again, what I'd like to see is get a little bit closer, jam here. You're focused on that inside receiver. You're focused on that outside receiver. So that when we get to this point, Chinn is already kind of still inside Neighbors here. St. Juice is walling it off here. And Sanders still's here. So, I mean, it's tough when you kind of don't get hands on that point man, and then you'll see it once we go to the end zone camera that even though Sanders still is technically covering man, it's not great. And Jones has got 2 guys here for a rather easy touchdown. So,
Nick, would you attest the bad coverage is because of lack of communication before the play? Because I feel like it's a pretty simple concept. It's man's coverage going down in the red zone. It's pretty, more like elementary or collegiate level. You could probably figure this out. Like, why is there so much confusion going into this play?
Yeah, I mean, I talked about it a little bit last year that when you have, as Mark kind of mentioned, this roster turnover of, 20 new players that are all playing on the field at the same time, you don't really have a level of trust with each other yet. And that comes with just more reps. I would have liked to see maybe a few more, reps in preseason. That would have definitely helped this, but it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. You can see here whenever motion's presented, they just kind of struggle. motions presented here, they're completely out of whack. They don't really know where they are. And that's just going to cause problems here, especially if you're not communicating. And yeah, it's a communication thing. It kind of always will be. And the best way to fix that is just playing together more and understanding where people are going to be in. That is all the bad I have. I swear I do have some good stuff for the first time.
All right.
And it's just to kind of focus on Bobby Wagner here. He was kind of in the run game back to, typical Bobby Wagner. It was a bit of a down week last year, but just kind of wanted to quickly highlight him to show that I'm not always negative. And he had a great game here.
You're
here
objective.
I know. So Bobby Wagner was just, again, very, very good. Highest graded player. And you can kind of see it's just don't try blocking with the tight end on the second level. It's just not going to work. Again, this play was kind of my favorite. You can sort of see at the start here. Mathis, and I can't tell who that is. Kind of confused about where they're supposed to be. He's getting them set up. And then now you've got him quickly beating a tackle, making a quick tackle. So just kind of shows you that Bobby Wagner's always going to put people in the right spots, especially in the run game. Last one I've got here.
I feel like Wagner had a great game.
Yep, he was. Like I said, back to his normal self there. But yeah, just wanted to highlight Bobby Wagner. Thought he had a very good game.
Question for the both of you. So I know over the years, Washington's kind of alternated their philosophy on the defensive line, like maybe a one-gap scheme or a two-gap scheme. So far, walking away from week 2, Bobby Wagner had a monster game with 10, 11 tackles, I believe. Definitely made an impact on the game, but overall, there were some big open gaps in the run game. Do you know if Washington's doing like a one-gap scheme or a two-gap scheme this year? Like, it just seems like, there's always there's pros and cons at each side of the ball, each side of the strategy. So I was kind of curious what Washington's doing this year. Mark or Nick?
Yeah, I mean, the big problem this week was simply just too high. Like, when they went too high, Washington could not defend it. And that, I don't know if it's more so scheme related. I hate saying this because I did really love the guy and he was one of my favorite players, but not really on this play. But Jonathan Allen has kind of struggled recently, especially in the run game. In years past, him and Payne kind of did their own thing. They kind of freelanced and kind of spun out of gaps and stuff like that. And I don't know, just because it just kind of seems like Jonathan Allen's not fully there. This play is not terrible. It's not great, but that would kind of be my biggest concern.
Yeah, because I know you're going to answer, Mark, but my question would be, I guess with Allen and Payne, it seemed like their production has kind of dipped a little bit. Is it because they are doing a two-gap and kind of opening things up for the linebackers, or are they just, is there something else I'm not seeing?
They're not two-gapping. You can get into certain fronts where they do two-gap, but for the most part, this is a very aggressive one-gap defense. And in this game in particular, as Nick said, when they went two high safeties, basically what that means is that they're out-gapped in the box, so that they don't have enough defenders to fill every single gap, which means you have to run stunts or you have to penetrate to make up for the fact that you don't have every single gap covered, just numerically. And so when they were playing like that, the Giants would often line up with two tight ends and run their duo scheme right up the gut at them. And so if Allen and Payne were getting two guys on them a large part of the game. And, in the past, in certain schemes that they did, you would see Allen and Payne handle those double teams by, dropping to a knee and trying to hold up those guys. But in this defense, they're philosophically being asked, doesn't matter what the scheme is, go penetrate, go cause havoc, because we are out-gapped and we need to create issues for the offense to make up that gap. So you see them stunting a lot. And if the upside of that is if the stunt hits well, you quite often create tackles for losses because you'll get into the backfield, penetrate and make a tackle. If the stunt doesn't quite hit well, or if the second level defenders don't back up the stunt, then it can lead to big holes in the offensive line, which is what we saw, especially when you're out-gapped and you can't cover every gap anyway. So that for me is what the main issue was on Sunday.
Got it.
Yep. I mean, essentially, I was trying to find the best example for that, but they're essentially showing too high here. I kind of circled these safeties. They do rotate to one high, which makes it better and easy to kind of show all the gaps that are covered. But if they kind of stay in too high here, you don't have a safety triggering down here into this gap, and you kind of have to rely on your first and second level players to make plays because they are out gapped, and you have to make a play essentially. And if it relies on a third level kind of getting into the play, you're usually not in a great spot. So when they got to single high stuff, they were pretty good. Like you can kind of see here, they were very good on defense. Even if Wagner doesn't make this tackle here, you've got Martin coming down and he's there as well. So, but that's just kind of typically how it goes for defenses. It's tougher to defend the run too high, and teams are starting to run the ball more, which again, NFL is kind of cyclical. It'll always come back around, and now we're going back to running the ball, and some more single high we're still in too high for run defenses, but yeah.
Got it.
That's all I got.
All right, let's throw it over to the offense.
Let's move to the offense. Let's go to the fun stuff again. Well, actually, we're starting with the not so fun stuff. We'll start with Jayden Daniels, and I know Nick has some thoughts on Jayden as well. I think we both felt like the first half was kind of a bit rough for him, and then he settled in a little bit more in the second half and did better there. But the things that were really holding him back were the sacks in the first half. He took 5 sacks in total. He only lost 15 yards on those 5 sacks, which kind of tells you that he wasn't like sitting in the pocket holding onto the ball and losing it 7 or 10 yards on a sack. It was more of he was running around and getting tackled closer to the line of scrimmage and not quite escaping the pocket as he fully would be able to. But there were still some bad mistakes and some decisions where he should be able to find a throw, and he didn't always do that. So this was the first sack, and you've got a pretty simple quick game concept. You've got a stick concept to this side, you got a spacing concept back here, and the read. Sometimes you play it pick a side, but generally with a Kingsbury offense, you're reading 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So you're starting with the flat, going back to the stick, back to the middle hook, and back to the backside hook. So and then typically the back will flare out here as a fifth option, but he stays in to protect on this occasion. So we'll run this on. You'll get the motion across the formation, which will get a rotation of the safeties. Giants are blitzing, which is an important part. This linebacker is going to come up the A gap completely free. But as Daniels drops back to pass, he's just taking a quick turn and throw. He's not taking a full drop. And at this point, to me, this is NFL open. And I understand that this defender is somewhat of a threat to potentially undercut the ball, but the defender's shoulders are turned, his eyes are facing on the receiver. He cannot see Jayden Daniels where that ball would be coming from. So a good throw from a good quarterback, way outside here to the numbers, lets McLaurin run onto that and gives this guy no chance of undercutting it because he just can't see it anyway. Jayden doesn't decide to make this throw for whatever reason. Maybe he's worried about this guy. He's being a little bit protective of the ball. Oh yeah, I had that diagram. I forgot I done that diagram. So yeah, there right now, if he sees this, pulls the trigger, this is sack avoided. I think he throws this, gets this out before this blitzer gets here. Because he doesn't pull the trigger, he hesitates, and I understand he's a young quarterback in his second game. Like he might see this guy as a potential threat to undercut that. But again, you would hope in future he will hit this. But he doesn't here, and because he hesitates, this linebacker comes right up the A gap. Now Daniels does an amazing job of not getting sacked right there.
Absolutely.
I have no idea how he got out of that. And we'll talk about the late hit in a minute. But I think that last part before talking about getting him getting out of the sack was kind of a good point. That when we are talking about things he should hit, this is stuff that we're kind of expecting an NFL quarterback to hit.
Yeah.
Not really someone that is in 2 starts. So like when I say, or when Mark says that he had a rough first half, for his standards, it's kind of understandable. He's still learning. He's still trying to see what he can get away with, what he can't get away with. And things we kind of showed last year when we were talking about Sam Howell as well, it was the same sort of thing in those first couple of games where, maybe he's not hitting things deeper that he should have or can. He started to do it a little bit, and then the wheels kind of fell off. We don't need to talk about that part. But it's kind of important to kind of give that context and say that, yes, he should be hitting these. An NFL quarterback should be hitting these, but this is second start. And if this is a problem in week 17, then yes, we've got some worries. But right now, and we'll see in the second half that it's not massively.
And you can kind of the thing that I've been encouraged by is you can see with a lot of these sacks and a lot of the negative plays these first 2 weeks is you can see the reasoning of why he's not doing something, and you can see that a more experienced quarterback would not be as worried about those issues and make better decisions because of it. So I'm not too concerned about it, but this is the special part, guys got him dead to rights and he manages to get out of that. I would potentially like him to just throw, again, he's got a guy potentially undercut him.
Throw the ball
just throw it away. But, or just take a little wider path and get out of bounds safely. But again, just throw the ball away. Don't lose yards. Don't take that hit. I think he was kind of trying to bait that hit for a penalty. Yeah. And it didn't happen, but it is what it is.
Can you go back?
Sorry.
Yeah. Can you go back a little tiny bit? Sorry to interrupt you. So for one, I love the context you guys both provided, because obviously Jayden Daniels is a work in progress. It's his second NFL game. There's a lot more to see. I think he's definitely he's growing pretty well in my opinion. My other question to you and both of you guys, so the protection seemed decent for him at first. They had a linebacker screaming up the middle. Should Eckler potentially stay in to kind of chip that, or was that kind of like, is that just kind of how the play is designed, or what's happening there? I was curious about that. It came in pretty clean. That's why I was kind of curious.
I'll let Mark go because I know what PFF put on this play. So I want to see what he's got first.
Without knowing what the protection call is, I can't say exactly what he's meant to do. Okay. But typically when you see a partial line slide like this, you would expect the back to step up and take this linebacker. If he doesn't do that here, obviously, I don't know what he's looking at here. Maybe he's thinking of a DB blitz and he has the wrong call. But you would typically this would be a two-jet protection in a West Coast offense, which would be a three-man slide to the right, and you play man on the back side of it, and your running back steps up and picks up the linebacker. That to me would be on Eckler, but I don't know whether the protection was meant to be something else, but it certainly does look like it should have been on Eckler.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we put it on Eckler as well, so I just wanted to see if Mark agreed.
You wanted to test me? So that was sack 1. Sack 2 is a little bit of an RPO. You've got a little kind of slant, drifty kind of thing from, I think this is Zach Ertz. You got Benson working out to the flat as kind of on a bubble. It's kind of a weird RPO. I hadn't seen them do this before. You bring, I think this is Zacchaeus across a motion. He's just getting out of the way. And then you've got the option to hand this ball off inside, or you can throw it out here. I think the read would typically be 1 to the flat, 2 inside. But as we run it on, we'll see you motion the guy across. You don't really get anyone following him, which gives you kind of an indication of zone. You snap the ball. Daniels pretty quickly pulls it out. Now, to me, I think at this point when he pulls it out, he should just be throwing this. What he does is he looks, in my opinion, what I think he does is he looks at this corner and he sees this corner playing off, not attaching to Ertz, and he thinks, I can throw this to Benson, but there's every chance this corner is going to charge down and make that tackle, and we're not going to gain any yards. But that's potentially true. One, you drafted this guy because he's got an ability to break tackles. He's a tight end. He should be bigger than a corner and has a chance to break those tackles. But 2, this is an RPO. It's not like a proper pass protection play where you've got everyone holding up in pass protection, giving you time to work 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It's, I got to get this ball out to him, or I got to get out to him, or I'm in trouble. He passes up on this, so he resets back to, I think this is Ertz on this little drift route. And again, you could maybe say the best quarterbacks in the league would put this right on their tight end between the numbers. I think a young quarterback like Jayden Daniels, we're talking about this safety's right here, he can drive on that, and you really have to be really precise with your ball placement to give your guy a chance to kind of box this out. So I can see why he doesn't do that. But when he doesn't take his second option, this is an RPO. You've got 2 guys pass blocking. You've got the rest guys run blocking. then you're in trouble. If you don't get the ball out quickly, you're in trouble. And you can see he's kind of like, okay, where do I go now? These guys aren't running routes, so there's nothing really to be looking for over here. Brian Robinson maybe tries to leak out, and he does try to leak out, but it comes far too late. And suddenly you've got 2 defensive tackles charging in on you. And now again, he does well to take off running out here to the flat, but he quickly finds out that in the NFL, these guys are quick enough to run you down and break the tackle. So again, when the play is busted, throw the ball away. Don't take a sack. Don't take a negative play, especially down in the red zone. Ideally, again, I think he just throws this to send it in the flat. And you know, if it doesn't get any yards, it doesn't get any yards. But you give him a chance to make a play. But when you're working off 2 reads on an RPO and suddenly you've got this big monster chasing you down, it's kind of a scary situation.
Best nose tackle in the league chasing you down.
Exactly. And so, this guy maybe in college, this guy doesn't chase him down quite so quickly and he's able to get the edge on him. In the NFL, that's not the case. And you wanted to see him just throw it away instead of taking that sack and the negative play, especially down in the red zone.
Yeah, if you pull the ball on an RPO, you better throw it. It's kind of as simple as that. I mean, you can't pull it without throwing it, because then you kind of open yourself up to, like we saw, pressure there, sacks, and ineligible downfield on pass, because the offensive line, they don't have eyes in the back of their head. They can't see that you pulled it, so they can't pass block. They're run blocking the whole way, and you have to throw it on RPOs if you pull it.
Yep. So that was sack 2. Sack number 3. This is one that the broadcast, I think, made Daniels look worse than he is, because they showed this play and then they showed Noah Brown running a little double move and getting wide open. It was like, oh my God, he was wide open. Why did he miss that? But you can take a screenshot of that and show that it was wide open. Well, hopefully I'll be able to explain exactly what happens here. So we got a dagger concept to the trip side. Zach Ertz lines outside. He motions in. He runs the little hook. You've got McLaurin on the dagger, and you've got Zacchaeus on this vertical clear out. On the backside, you've got Noah Brown isolated 1-on-1, and he's running a little double move. So in this offense, typically you would probably work the dagger concept if you're getting some kind of zone or you're not sure, you don't like your matchup out here. But in this offense, when you get a 1-on-1, you have free license to go for it. So when Daniel snaps the ball here, he is 100% thinking, I'm going to Noah Brown on this double move, and I'm seeing what I can do, especially with this leverage from this corner, playing so heavily inside. But what happens is when Daniels drops back, he eyes this safety, and this safety is immediately working outside to the top of this double move, which in Daniel's mind, and correctly, is, okay, well, this double move is dead. He's being bracketed by this safety over the top. That's why this guy is playing so heavily inside leveraged. So this double move is dead. And that is why Jayden Daniels checks that safety and immediately is like, okay, this is dead. I'm working back to the other side of the field. What you'll see is as soon as Daniels works back to the other side of the field, the safety puts on the handbrakes and quickly works back across. And that is why this double move from Noah Brown suddenly looks a lot more open than it actually was in reality. When Daniels was working that way, that safety was taken away. We'll get to the protection from the end zone angle in a minute. Let me just wind it back a second, because the dagger concept on this side, the protection kills the play, but the dagger concept wouldn't have let it live anyway. So you got Zacchaeus trying to run this vertical clear out. This linebacker drops out from faking a blitz, and he bumps him hard, and Zacchaeus falls down. And that kind of kills. That kind of kills any chance of this whole concept working. You'll see it here. Zacchaeus, keep an eye on him. He gets knocked over.
Okay.
So that's the vertical clear out gone, which means this defender is not getting cleared out.
Well, I mean, somebody did get cleared. Somebody got cleared out. It was not a defender.
Zacchaeus got cleared out, not the defender. And then that also impedes McLaurin on his inbreaker. So that kind of kills both of those routes. Maybe you could throw this to Zach Ertz, but this linebacker just knocked the hell out of Zacchaeus and is sprinting outside. So that's a rough look as well. So in reality, there was nowhere really for Daniels to go with the ball. But as we'll see from the end zone angle, he didn't get the chance to even read what happened on that side of the field. So we get Brandon Coleman makes a bad mistake here, and it's another kind of rookie error. We talked about it last week once where he made a mental error. This was another mental error. The Giants catch them in a slide to the right. and that can happen from time to time. Say you've got a defensive back here, slot corner, I think, blitzing off the edge. Coleman stunts inside with this defensive end, and he's trying to pass him off inside, but the line is sliding that way. So his left guard is sliding that way and not looking for anything coming from the outside. So Coleman really needs to stay on this guy and let the guy with 10 yards of ground to make up free for Jayden Daniels to be responsible for. What Coleman decides to do instead is shove the defensive end inside, expecting Allegretti to pick him up, and for some reason peels off to try to pick up this safety or this defensive back. Nick Allegretti's not there, ready for it at all. You can see he has no idea this is happening over here. So this defensive end ends up just coming completely free. And again, Jayden Daniels does absolutely an amazing job of avoiding that guy. But then the protection fails kind of over on this side because he's been pushed back into it, and he eventually gets brought down for a sack. So that was the third sack. That was the first one that I don't put on Jayden Daniels at all. I can see the broadcast did him dirty a little bit with that double move to Noah Brown, but it wasn't there, and nothing else was there. So that was sack number 3.
Mark, that was a great breakdown. I think you really kind of broke it down step by step, because for one, you wanted to look at that deep shot on the right side of the field. The safety was kind of creeping there. That eliminated that. Zacchaeus falls down, kind of creates some panic because that left side of the field's gone. My question to both of you guys, offensive line. I know we're kind of focusing on Jayden Daniels today, Cliff Kingsbury's offense a little bit later. I'm kind of curious. I know they're getting pretty good grades. They're getting pretty good reflections on the analytics and the higher form metrics. Is the offensive line truly performing pretty well, or is it more of a product of Kingsbury getting rid of the ball quick? I know there's a lot of screen passes and kind of little quick shots, or is it a combination of both?
In terms of PFF grades, it's quick game stuff, because with the way we grade, the quicker you win, the worse you're getting graded, essentially, and not all pressures are going to be graded the same. But if the ball is consistently out in 2 seconds, a lot of times you don't have time for defenders to even win their reps. So it's going to make their grades look a little bit better. And Dolphins fans have been dealing with this for a while with PFF grades, where some offensive linemen look a lot better than they are because the ball is out so quickly in that McDaniels offense and the way Tua has played. So it's kind of similar here so far, is that short, depth of target, the quick release, all that sort of stuff kind of lends itself to higher, team PFF grades. Coleman in particular was pretty rough. The grade kind of showed that last week. But yeah, that's just kind of team grades, I guess, when it comes to offensive line.
Yep. Thank you.
Cool. So we've had 3 sacks. We've got 2 more to go. So I'll try to speed things up a little bit. We got another safety blitz, another DB blitz off of this side. I think that kind of scares Daniels a little bit, but we'll get into that. So we got a little play action dagger concept. You got Luke McCaffrey here running the deep over. I believe this is Noah Brown possibly, or De'Ami Brown, one of the two. They use a little exit motion and then they run the dig behind it, running into the space vacated by the deep over. And you've got a little play action here where both the tight end and the running back are going to work across and seal off this backside. So the safety blitz is off this side. You'll see Eckler come across and pick it up, but I think it worries Daniels. So we'll run this on. You can see that little exit motion. Daniels has the play fake. Now the line sliding inside and picking up these guys. The safety comes off the edge, and Eckler's there to pick him up. So that's good. And he actually does a pretty decent job here. I think Daniels doesn't trust the protection, potentially after being sacked a few times. So he does. I think Daniels sees this, and I think 3 or 4 weeks from now he hits this. But this is one of those that we talked about where he's a young, inexperienced guy, and he's just hesitating a little bit while he's figuring things out. Do I diagram this? I do. Excellent. So you see, he even begins his throwing motion. You can see the ball's separated. He's ready to deliver his throw. And you can see he sees what he needs to do. He's got McCaffrey coming into the second window behind that linebacker. That throw is a very good NFL throw, but an NFL quarterback throw that is open and there to be made.
Yeah, this play pissed me off because, like you said, like him loading to throw it, if he throws this, I would have been so happy with him because, like you said, like that step from McCaffrey there, he's even with a linebacker that's open in the NFL. So if he throws this, I'd be clipping this up and talking about this forever, but it kind of goes back to
yeah, exactly. So you can see the process is there, and he's thinking that's where I need to go with the ball. He hesitates, and I can't quite tell why. My only thought can be that he's not sure about Eckler on this safety blitz, and he's not sure about it, or maybe he just thinks it's a little bit of a tight window. But the thing is, the protection holds up well, so he has the time to deliver the ball. And even when he doesn't immediately deliver the ball, he starts trying to step up and scramble. And I kind of diagrammed it there. It's Dyami Brown. Like, if this linebacker is attaching to Luke McCaffrey, there is a huge hole in the middle of the field here. If he just resets, delivers a strike over the middle, he's got Dyami Brown running, and especially as this safety is attaching to McCaffrey, he's got him running to open field for a potentially really big gain. But he kind of panics, and I'm guessing he's feeling that pressure. So he steps up thinking, I've got a lane here, I can take off running. And what that does is gives this defender a chance to peel off and get that sack. And you'll see that from the end zone angle.
It's going to be interesting to chart as the year goes on, because if he does hit that play, it's a good chunk play, 20, 30 yards, I think, if he leads him. So
speaking of that, Luke McCaffrey has been getting open, and Luke McCaffrey should be getting a lot more targets than he's gotten. I don't know if Mark pulled up the other one, the scramble that I'm talking about, but he's there. Like, he's open, and on this play, again, veteran quarterback, if someone like Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw this, I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Jayden Daniels, 2 starts, I understand it. Typically, I'd want my quarterback to just slightly drift to the right, understand where that blitz is coming from, slightly drift to the right, feel it. If you don't really like that first crosser, you should know that when that whole player, I think that's Okereke, is taking McCaffrey, that second one is going to be open just based on the coverage that they're playing. So again, it's high-level stuff, high-level processing, but in 2, 3, 4 weeks, he should be hitting these. And to his credit, he did hit these in the second half of this game. So you just kind of want the growth. It's not going to happen every time, but you do want to see the growth. Yeah,
and you can see, like, he sees it here. Like, McCaffrey hasn't even cleared it, but you can see McCaffrey is going to clear it because it's a linebacker and McCaffrey is a receiver. So he starts that throwing motion early before McCaffrey clears it. He can see it. He just let it go, man. Just let it go.
You can either kind of layer this over 41, or you can kind of rip it in there. Like, with the way that outside corner was playing, just kind of strictly man on, I think it was Terry. You've got options on how you want to throw this, and it was there.
But the process at this point is then bad. Like, I can understand the hesitation here. The process here is bad. You had that backside dig that we talked about, wide open. You got a check down right here, pretty much wide open. There's zero need for him to try to scramble out here. And it was kind of like what we saw with Sam Howell last year, where he tries to run and he ends up running into a sack. Eckler's doing a hell of a job against a bigger body, picking it up and holding that pocket firm for him. And he just kind of negates that effort by running into this sack.
Yeah, I mean, Eckler in pass pro, when he is actually in pass pro when he's supposed to be, is a very, very good pass blocker. Like, any downgrades he's had from us is just come from the mental errors. When he's actually blocking, he's a very, very good pass blocker. And you have to trust that. At some point, you do just have to trust him to make that block, and he did. And it was a rough one, but again, first half of that was the 5th quarter of his career, so understandable.
So that was sack 4. That came with like 8 minutes to go left in the second quarter. So there were 4 sacks very early in the game. He didn't have another one until the 3rd quarter. So he did improve. And this was his only sack in the second half. It was down in the red zone. And this one, I can understand him taking a little bit more. You've got a little stick concept like we showed earlier, and then you've got that similar kind of dagger concept. And the idea here that they're looking for is they're looking for this backside safety to attach to this stick route and then try to sneak McLaurin behind it for the shot over the top. And it's very nearly there, but it doesn't quite hold up for him. So we'll see Eckler motions out to the flat. They run this little stick concept with Eckler and Ertz. Did I diagram it? Oh, of course I did. So yeah, you get the safety and you get the linebacker both attaching to Ertz underneath. And Daniels can see that, and he's processing it. And he knows that he's got Terry McLaurin running this. Typically, it's a vertical clear out. When it's this short in the red zone, it becomes a kind of a backline run. So he can run this in behind this safety, and it's a potential nice touchdown throw over the top of the safety. So Daniels is looking for that, but obviously he's got to wait for that to develop. And that safety, like Daniels holds him there, keeps staring at Ertz and holds that safety flat, but he's got to wait a long time for this to develop. Unfortunately, Andrew Wiley gets beat at the right side. Cosme tries his best to save it, and Daniels does a nice job avoiding that initial pressure. I think what Daniels needs to do a little bit better job of as he goes forward is understanding that he doesn't necessarily have to always go straight into scramble mode once he avoids the initial pressure. Now, like,
and that
this
was,
guy's behind him, so
that was kind of the criticism of college.
It was
right there. Is that pressure comes, drop the eyes and scramble. You have time. You've got only 3 guys rushing. I know it's the red zone, but that kind of thought process has to kind of be changed a little bit, where you don't need to always scramble. You can still stay in there sometimes and try to make a play within the pocket.
And we'll see that in a bit.
Yeah, sorry. I was gonna say what you're going to get out, Mark, because there's so much space on the right side. If he kind of leaks out to the right, buy some time, he can still throw that ball to McLaurin.
Well, he does end up leaking out to the right. The thing I'm feeling like he doesn't need to necessarily instantly start thinking I've got to run. He doesn't instantly start thinking that, but like you'd like to think that these 2 guys could handle this guy and give you time to just kind of reset yourself, because McLaurin is now getting to that spot where he's running past that linebacker that's carrying him. You can just throw this ball out here with a lot of air. That safety's not going to get back under it, and you can make that throw. So Daniels can kind of just reset himself rather than feels that pressure, and the end zone angle is better at it. You'll see, and it's another one of those where he gets chased down by a guy that he probably wouldn't have got chased down in college. But you can see Wiley's getting driven back into him here. Cosme comes across to try to help him. If Daniels just takes a little slide up there and then resets, and you can see McLaurin coming across, the safety's still shallow, he's got that ball there. But the moment he gets that bit of pressure, he's immediately going, I've avoided the pressure, great. Now I'm taking off running to make sure that I'm not getting hit. And, you know, if he just resets and delivers the throw, he's not going to get hit. So he takes off running, and you can see that, you know, Terry McLaurin's now open and he wants to throw that ball. What you can't see here is there's a corner peeling off on the backside that I think he wisely makes the decision not to make that throw. And then this guy again is a guy that in college probably doesn't chase him down, and he gets the edge and makes this positive play anyway. In the NFL, that doesn't quite happen, and he gets brought down for his 5th sack. So that's the 5 sacks. Again, you can kind of understand each one individually, but I would put 4 of them probably on him, and there were some missed opportunities there. But you know, young quarterback, you can understand where he's at, and you can see the growth potential for him on these plays. And this play isn't a sack, but it's the play he got hurt on, and it kind of feeds into the same process that we're talking about. And this is where people talk about where are the deep shots in this offense. This was one of them that could have been. They've got a double post on.
This is the one I was talking about with Luke McCaffrey. It's got to be a little bit frustrating for him, but again, it is only week 2, so
he'll get his. So we got a double post concept on the right of the field. You've got, I think it's Terry McLaurin running this kind of backside deep over underneath these posts. You got your tight end and your running back chipping and then working out to the flat as your check downs. So we're in an empty set, and we'll run this on here. It is 3rd down.
Yeah, it's 3rd and 14, 15, something like that. Yeah,
3rd and long. So we're back here at the line of scrimmage. 1st down marker is over here. 3rd and 14, you're right. So it's one of those where in college, again, Jayden Daniels is probably making this play an easy one. Did I diagram it? I did. So actually, I want to take that back a little bit. So let's go back. When we get to the top of the drop, there's a little bit of pressure coming off this right side. Left side. So we're at the top of the drop now, and he's the pocket's pretty decent, but you can kind of see, I think it's probably Dexter Lawrence, but it's breaking kind of through that double team, and he's kind of seeing Sam Cosme losing a little bit inside. So he's thinking, there's going to be a lane here I can take off to avoid this pressure. Now, the best quarterbacks in the NFL are thinking, I can just slide and step up and then reset here and deliver a throw. So you can see that here. He's feeling like, I'm going to escape out here and run and take off and go make this play, because Sam Cosmi does a real nice job of readjusting and getting in front of his guy. I would like to see him just step up here and make a throw. But he, as we've talked about before, he's thinking taking off running. Now, we'll talk about this downfield thing in a minute. There's no need for him to be running. He has a tight end right here in 10, 15 yards of space. Just throw him the ball. And I think he learned that lesson the hard way on this play. But down the field, the real concept here is this double post. And you've got this safety with his body position quite clearly leveraging towards the outside post from De'Ami Brown. You got the corner over the top of it. The other safety is attaching to Terry McLaurin on his deep over. So you've got Luke McCaffrey in the slot running 2 acres of space over here. Now, this is a tough throw from this position to somewhat throw back across your body all the way over here. But Jayden Daniels is very much capable of that type of throw. And you would absolutely love to see him, rather than take off running, just take a nice little slide step, reset, deliver that ball to that space, and let Luke McCaffrey go run as far as he can, and out the stadium if he wants to. So if he doesn't do that, I understand, like, you're feeling a bit of pressure, you're a young quarterback, just take the down, check down, and live to fight another day. I know he's Superman, and in college, in this position, that first down marker is around about here. Yeah. And you've got no defenders are on the chains.
Yeah, he's got it every single time.
There's a lot of open field. In LSU, he is making all of these defenders miss and probably taking it to the house. But in the NFL, he's not doing that. These guys close in on him a lot quicker. He takes a hard hit to the ribs and gets the wind knocked out of him.
If you can go back to the start of that play, it's a good call for what they have. You can see it kind of a little bit at the start, is once you kind of notice that safety rotation. And again, this is high-level quarterback stuff here. Not something I'm 100% expecting him to do. Like Mark's saying, a great NFL quarterback is just kind of shifting a little bit to his right, understanding that with how the safeties are rotating, that one of these 2 deep posts are going to be open, depending on how that safety takes it. And once he closes his hips to that outside receiver, the ball has got to be triggered. And again, it's just a slight little drift, and you have that base to throw this, and you can throw this in McCaffrey. At this moment, he is open because that safety cannot flip his hips around. I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen like you guys.
That's all good.
Safety cannot flip his hips around. Yeah,
is not getting back there. This safety is also not getting back there. Yep. There is field. Basically, this corner is busting this because I think it's cover 3 and he's meant to be back here. Yep. And he doesn't read the threat from the other side of the field, so he's just staying flat, which is leaving that space wide open. So this guy is responsible for that, and he's nowhere near it. So
high level stuff, but it is very frustrating to watch back, and it's why I've kind of said twice now that I was a little too critical of Cliff watching it for broadcast and the lack of downfield attempts and all that sort of stuff. It is there, and in 2-3 weeks, I think we're going to see him start hitting these things, and in 2-3 weeks, Luke McCaffrey will start getting some catches that aren't screens, and everything will be good.
Right. I've just noticed we've been going for nearly an hour, so we've got 5 minutes.
It's very easy to go on for a long time.
I haven't even got to the Kingsbury stuff.
Mark, you can go a little bit over if you want. It's all good. I think it's interesting. I want to see the Kingsbury stuff as well. So go ahead.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the Kingsbury stuff. Yeah. We'll quickly get through these. I've got 2 more Daniels plays just to end on a good positive note. Okay. So this one here, he started to pick up a bit in the second half, as we kind of mentioned. And this one here is a sail concept with Zach Ertz. What happens here is they get a little bit of a pressure coming off the left side, and Daniels recognizes it. And this is what we want to see from him. When he feels that pressure, he rolls out to his right. And I'll just let this run on. He gets this pressure coming off this side. He gets Thibodeau coming off completely free. And he sees that pressure, but he also sees, I've got this safety buzzing down to the flat. I'm going to get Zach Ertz running free. So what I can do is I can just extend this play. I can roll out and extend the play rather than try to run myself. And I can buy time for Ertz's route to develop, and then I can hit that. And he does it really well. And then Zach Ertz has a big play. So that
That
That's
was
what you wanna see
my
from him.
favorite. That was my favorite play. His biggest sign of growth, because like we talked about before, when he scrambled, it was scrambling to run. It was never scrambling to pass. In college and in week 1 and week 2, to see him scramble and still understand where your routes are going to progress was a massive, massive positive sign.
Yeah. And then this is the final one. This was my favorite throw. You've got it's final drive, 2-minute drill. They're obviously driving to win the game. You've got kind of a spot concept here. You've got McCaffrey running the deep corner. You got McLaurin running the flat, and Zach Ertz runs the little spot route. And then you got this backside dig from Noah Brown. So you're typically working the spot concept here, and then coming back to this if nothing's open. So Daniels does a really nice job here as we snap the ball. Do I diagram it? I don't. Okay, I didn't diagram that one. My bad. Let me get back to it and pause it at the right spot. So as we get to his top of his drop, you can see his eyes go to this safety, and this safety doesn't rotate back to the deep middle of the field. He stays over this bunch set, this trip set from Washington's right here, which means the Giants have 4 defenders over 3 receivers. Now, that doesn't guarantee good coverage, but it gives them a mathematical advantage. So what Daniels does is, okay, I've got 4 over 3 here. That means I can check this backside safety, and I potentially have a one-on-one out here with Noah Brown. So what you can see, Daniels' eyes pivot back to here, and he sees this safety is playing real shallow, and probably because he's meant to be matching Austin Eckler, who ends up staying into pass protect. So with that safety being really, really shallow, this is all one-on-one. And I don't know who this corner is, but Noah Brown turns around with not even that good of a route. And he breaks open to the middle of the field here. Daniel sees it, delivers that ball, gets out nice and quick with some pressure coming on him, delivers a beautiful layered throw, and you'll see it better from the end zone angle. Gets it over that safety, gets it up and down, over the safety, below the corner. Nice ball.
Beautiful ball.
Pretty much in stride. Maybe in an ideal world, you want it like half a yard out in front, but he's not really breaking stride, and Brown is able to pick up some nice yards after the catch. Big play. So that's my favorite throw for Jayden Daniels.
Being able to get to a backside dig is a big kind of sign of growth.
Yep.
Again, like those last 2 throws were both weaknesses of his game at LSU. They like scrambling to run and some of those middle of the field throws when it came on 2nd and 3rd reads. Both of those were perfect, and that is a massive, massive sign for growth. And it showed also like in a tighter pocket that he's still able to kind of work within there and is not kind of panicking. So kind of a pretty big deal there.
Yep. Good progress, and hopefully something to build on. So quickly, we'll touch on Kingsbury a little bit. We're not going to get to every part of Kingsbury that I've got here, but the first thing, or the main thing I want to get to, is people were kind of complaining about all the tunnel screens and the bubble screens, and all of Nick being one of them. It had a purpose, and it served a really good purpose in this offense. First of all, it was at the start of the game, they ran a lot of it, and it was mainly to settle Jayden Daniels down, but it was also to get the Giants out attacking the perimeter rather than loading the box, because the Giants were always going to try to stop the run with Jayden Daniels being a big running threat. So they called a bunch of RPOs early in the game, and you can see they kind of set their stall out. This is one of their early ones. It's a tunnel screen. So bubble screens are receivers going away. Tunnel screens are receivers coming in. So this is a tunnel screen. You've got a trip set, and you've got 2 blockers out in front, and you got your receiver running the tunnel screen. You got the option to hand off. And basically all he's reading is reading numbers. So out here, you can see right now there's 4 defenders over the 3 receivers, which is not a good look to throw that tunnel screen to. However, this defender here comes up late as a kind of blitzer off the edge, which leaves them 3 defenders over 3 receivers, and one of those defenders is 10 yards off the ball as a deep safety. So that is a very good look to throw that tunnel screen into. So we'll run the play on. You see that guy step up. He joins the rush. It's a very easy read for Jayden Daniels. Get that ball out and go pick up that first down. You can see that first. It was only sort of 3 or 4 yards away from the first down anyway, but they go and get that first down, move the chains, keep the drive alive. Same drive. A few plays later, I think this is 3rd and 1. Basically the same idea. You get a little inside run packaged with this tunnel screen. Again, you're looking at the numbers. So you've got 3 guys out here against 3 receivers. That's a good look. And you've got a lot of guys in the box to defend a run. That's not a good look. So we're going to pull the ball, throw that tunnel screen outside. And you see again, it's easy money. Even if Zacchaeus doesn't make a block here, De'Ami Brown's going to pick up that 1 yard, and Zacchaeus just about does enough. But De'Ami Brown gets that 1 yard to move the chains. Not huge gains, but obviously chain movers.
Hey, Mark, thank you for giving the context there. I really do appreciate it. Like, you can start to see the concept for why Cliff Kingsbury was throwing these screens. My rationale was, or my thinking was, he wanted to get Jayden Daniels in a rhythm, throw the ball, kind of get his confidence up a little bit. But I like what you said about spreading the Giants horizontally. It kind of opens with the box a little bit so they can run the ball more effectively. I didn't even think about that concept. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's
well, that's
Mark and I were kind of talking about it like on Monday about like aesthetically watching a bunch of screens is just not fun, and that's my biggest complaint is just watching a bunch of screens. It's just not fun to watch. It serves a purpose, and he's doing it for a reason. It's the same reason that the Shanahan-McVay tree run their play action and all their passes out of the exact same formation, exact same run look. It's the same thing. It's just you're trying to get the defense in a different advantage. Cliff just does it by spreading it horizontally and using screens. Again, it is much cooler to watch a play action from a Shanahan tree than a screenplay, but it is the same purpose and it's working.
Yeah, and this play is showing exactly why they do that. So this comes in the second half. So they've run a bunch of these tunnel screens already by now. The Giants are sick of giving up first downs and short little gains to these tunnel screens. So they put 4 guys out here, and suddenly it becomes a lot nicer to run into. You've got 4 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker. You got a corner out here that who cares? It's a corner. They're not going to tackle. And you got a safety that's 20 yards deep or 15 yards deep. So this is a real nice look to run into. Every offense would be running this into. So you've taken this linebacker out of the box. He's defending this tunnel screen. And you can see he goes quite hard on this tunnel screen. He stays way out there. And we'll see from the end zone angle what it ends up leading to. But it gives you a nice light box to run into. It gives you a favorable numbers game to run into. And the thing that I really enjoyed in this game from Cliff was that he didn't just go with the basic inside zone to package with that. He's calling specific run plays designed to beat an aggressive defensive line with a defensive lineman that they have. So this is a trap scheme where you've got both guards pulling to kick out these guys. You've got defenders blocking down inside, and Brian Robinson runs it inside. Now they almost blow it up, but the linemen do a nice job of picking it up. So Nick Allegretti comes and kicks out the edge. Cornelius Lucas does enough on this guy, that the linebacker that comes up, and then Cosme does a real nice job of turning this guy inside and sealing off and creating that lane in here for Robinson. And Robinson, for his part, does a real nice job of bouncing this here and then getting up vertical. And at this point, I've got a nice block from Zach Ertz on the safety. Can the corner crack, replace, and make a play? No, the corner cannot crack, replace, and make a play.
Most corners cannot crack, replace at all. So
no. So that is why the run game was successful throughout this game. Is Cliff Kingsbury was manufacturing good looks for the offense to run into, and that's why they run the bubble screens. And then Kingsbury does a nice job of layering on top of that. So this one came after that sail pass to Zach Ertz where we saw Daniels roll out. He gained a bit of confidence. The next play they run this, which is the next layer of those tunnel screens. You fake the tunnel screen, you get the receivers faking their blocking, and then they charge up the field, and you can see what happens here. Daniels pumps fakes the tunnel screen. You get the safety and the slot corner biting heavily on it. Zach Ertz is able to run past the safety. Safety kind of grabs him to stop him, but it's too late. Daniels resets nicely, delivers that ball, and Ertz makes that catch, and you pick up another sort of 15 yards on the play. So again, you see Daniels pump that flat, come back, rip that ball up the middle. Nice ball, good catch, good play. So those are the layers that you build on top of it. So you have the tunnel screens, the RPOs, to spread the defense out, force them to commit to defending the edge, and that gives you positive run looks to run into. And then you can build the layers off of that with those fake screens and stuff like that. So the way Nick wanted to do it, if we can go two more clips, the way Nick wants to do it is the Shanahan way. And Kingsbury showed in this game, possibly this is more Anthony Lynn than Kingsbury, but he showed that this is in the playbook. So this is a run play. This is a basic power play. I'm starting wide look because it's important. So you get the 2x2 formation. You got Terry McLaurin out here with Zach Ertz. You got McCaffrey and De'Ami Brown or Zacchaeus out here. 2x2. McLaurin motions short, and then they just run a power scheme where Cosme pulls and he wraps around for the linebacker. They don't get much from it. It's not really that part that's important. It's what it's setting up. So you get that look, McLaurin running in, short, motioning in short, and then you pull the guard and you run a power scheme. And again, you'll see it here. McLaurin motions in, we run that power scheme, Cosme pulls, wraps around to the linebacker. Giants flow and play it well. We only get a few yards, but that's fine.
The key part is what it sets up later. And Shanahan's talked all the time about how he'll purposely call a 2-yard run play just so he can set something up later. And that's kind of the point of all of this.
That's exactly what they do. This is the first play out of the half. It's the exact same look. It's on the different hash, but it's the same look. So you've got 2x2, McLaurin motions in short. You got Ertz here. You got McCaffrey. You got De'Ami Brown. You got Sam Cosme pulling to do that wrap. You have Brian Robinson diving inside on what looks like the same power run scheme, but this time McLaurin's running this little drift route, which is the same route that Pierre Garçon and RG3 destroyed teams with in 2012 off of those play actions. So it's the exact same idea. McLaurin motions in short. Looks like the exact same run scheme. You can see the Giants bite real heavily on it because it's the same look they've already seen. Safety bites up, linebackers bite up. There's a nice big void in the middle of this field for Terry McLaurin to drift into. Daniels rips it, nice 15-ish yards. Unfortunately, he gets called for a legal man downfield. I think Tyler Biadasz or Nick Allegretti gets a little.
Yeah, Allegretti was too quick to the second level.
Which again, he was too quick to the second level.
On RPOs, he doesn't know who keeps it, so he's got to kind of do this. And it's just kind of the game you play when it comes to RPOs and whatnot. You'll usually get away with a bit less aggressive ones. That one was 5 yards downfield, so it's going to be tough to get away with that one.
So that one was called back, but that just shows that style of offense that Nick and I personally both prefer is there. But it's not. I think it's more of an Anthony Lynn influence. It's not what the first stuff we were looking at with the RPOs, the screens, getting the favorable run looks, getting guys out of the box. Kingsbury plays a math game quite a lot with the numbers, and that's his style. That's his philosophy, and that's fine. It works. We kind of saw that it works in this game. It's just a different way than I guess people in Washington and guys like me and Nick are used to seeing with the Shanahans and that kind of thing. But that stuff is there, and hopefully as Jayden progresses as a passer, you're able to get into more of the play action stuff. You don't have to rely on the screens to spread out the defense. You naturally build into the play action stuff, and then the defense starts going, okay, we need to keep 2 safeties deep, and that makes the box lighter and it's easier to run on it that way. So there's lots of different ways to do it. That's just the difference in say the Shanahan's way of doing it and compared to Kingsbury.
I got a comment and a question. So first comment, so obviously Logan Paulson played in the Kyle Shanahan system. He talked about how Kyle very rarely has just straight pure dropbacks to the passer. It's either RPO or play action. He develops a lot of different, mystery and kind of eye candy before he throws the ball. So I think that's pretty interesting because we're starting to see that a little bit here in DC. RPO play action is pretty common. Like I didn't personally see 5, 10, 15 straight dropbacks. It's more like 5 to 7 in my opinion. Is that fair to say? I mean, I don't know if you guys agree to that at all.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of straight dropbacks, and they are deliberately trying to not drop back a ton. When they do, it's more quick game stuff. So it's not like he's taking 5-7 step drops and trying to rip it down the field and they're trying to protect forever. It's more quick game stuff.
The complete opposite of last year. I mean, it is completely opposite where Bieniemy would have Howell take 5-7 step drops the entire time, pray that the route concept would develop in over 3 seconds, and it just never did. And it's completely different.
Then one last question for you guys before we wrap it up. I don't want to respect your time as well. The offense going to move the ball pretty well between the 20s and the 20s. Getting down to the red zone, there are some deficits, right? Was it potentially schematic deficits, or was it more like just procedural penalties that knocked them back, knocked them out of the, knocked them out of a successful play call, or what was happening there down in the red zone?
It's whatever was happening with the offensive line when it came to false starts and snap counts and stuff. I mean, the red zone is hard enough as it is when you are consistently putting yourself an extra 5 yards back. it's just you're just never going to succeed. And for whatever reason, every time they got down there was a false start. I don't know what was going on. There were some Giants fans there, so maybe it got a little bit loud and they couldn't hear when it got closer to the end zone. But that you're just never going to be successful if you're having that every single time you're getting down in the red zone.
Yep.
All right.
Exactly. That was it.
Perfect. So we can start wrapping it up. I know we went over time a little bit. Fantastic breakdowns as always. I really enjoy working with you and learning alongside you. You guys are great. This week, the Commanders play the Bengals on Monday night. We have to maybe talk about a potential time to do this. I don't know if it's going to be quick turnaround at Tuesday afternoon. I don't know if that's too fast for you guys. So
Tuesday might be a bit tough.
Yeah, maybe we can bump it to Wednesday or something.
Oh, then we get a full hour of Nick then, because Tuesday's good with me.
Ooh, okay. Just steal the show.
Be my guest. Be my guest.
All right, gentlemen, it's a pleasure as always. I'll see you guys next week. Take care, guys.